Hello and welcome back to a new episode of Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. I'm your host, Bill Hoffman, and this week's show is all about how I survived a bear attack.
Welcome to Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. Load your quiver, camo up, and join us for another great episode of outdoors action. Hoffman's Hunting Heritage is brought to you by Mission Archery, Advanced Takedown Tree Stands, author W.C. Hoffman, Sunrise Archery, Tribe Grunt Calls, the Lando Lakes Bowman Club, and Radio Chronos. Here is your host, Bill Hoffman.
This is Stephanie Brown with Langia.com, and you're listening to Hoffman's Hunting Heritage.
Well, as you heard in the introduction, this show is all about how I survived a bear attack. Honestly, it was one of the scariest moments of my life. But before we actually get directly into the bear attack, I got to tell you the full story. I got to tell you how I ended up face-to-face in that situation to begin with. Well, I was only 15 years old, and I know exactly how old it is because when your life flashes before your eyes and you're only 15, it doesn't take that long to happen. I was in Michigan's Upper Peninsula at my dad's hunting camp for the first time. I had turned 15. It was the first year I was allowed to go to camp. And up in that part of the UP, they have two things. They have bears and they have a prison. And I was clearly told by my uncles and my dad that if you see either one, you're in trouble. So, not necessarily seeing the prison, but they had, so where I live in Michigan, to get to deer camp is a good 7-hour drive. Michigan is a really long and tall state, so it takes a long time to get where you're going if you're headed north or south. East or west, not so much. But anyway, so this entire drive north, my dad is telling me about, you're probably going to see some bears, and just, if you don't mind them, they won't mind you. Make some noise, stomp, your feet on the tree stand. Take an apple up in the tree stand with you and throw it at them. They'll kind of, the whole they're more scared of you than you are of them type deal. So, bear-wise, I wasn't too shaken up. However, the prisoner thing really got to me. I don't know why. But, they had told me if you see a guy walking through the woods and he's in bright orange, and again, we were up bow hunting. I should say that we were up bow hunting. So anyone wearing orange, no one's wearing orange. So if you see someone in the woods wearing orange, be super suspicious. If he's wearing all orange, he's not a small game hunter. You need to just stay real quiet, not let him see you or hear you. But if he comes near you, just let him know you have a weapon. And they just were filling my mind with a bunch of crap. Now, you and I both know that, a prisoner that escapes is not going to run deep into the woods of northern Michigan. It's just not going to happen. Not only that, being only 15, I didn't know then what I know now, is that I was 35 miles from the frickin' prison. So the chances of some dude breaking out and going 35 miles through the woods, the bear-filled woods, of course, to get to my random place where I was in a tree stand was not going to happen. But, my uncles and my dad let me believe that we were right around the corner the whole time. So driving up, again, Dad is telling me all about, the prisoners and the bears and whatnot. And he told me the only bear you have to worry about is a sow with cubs, because they're the ones that'll be aggressive. If you see a sow and you see cubs, that's when you get scared. And I know I was 15. I didn't have a firearm with me, just my bow. And, he just said, treat a sow with cubs kind of like you would treat the prisoner. Stay real quiet and hope they don't see you. So I had all this just swirling around in my little 15-year-old brain. At this point, I probably killed 2 deer, and I was the hotshot bow hunter, I guess, in my own mind. But turns out the hotshot bow hunter don't got much when it comes up to a bear attack. So the other thing that's real memorable from this trip is when we were driving up, we crossed the Mackinac Bridge. And for those of you that are not familiar with the state of Michigan, of course, I'm sure you all know that you have the upper and the lower peninsula. But what connects them is the Mackinac Bridge. And the Mackinac Bridge is the world's 5th longest or largest, biggest, I don't know, suspension bridge in the world. It's like just over 5 miles. It's 200 feet above the water of the Great Lakes. And what is neat or scary about the Mackinac Bridge is that area is really crazy windy because of the land features and the water features. And what happens is the bridge is actually designed to sway. The bridge is a suspension bridge, and it can sway up to 35 feet in either direction. Now, I have been across the bridge maybe in my life 50 times, 60 times, and I've never seen it sway or even felt it sway or even had the inclination that it was moving other than this one time. This one time when I was 15 years old, had a head full of bear attack lessons, scared to death that a prisoner was going to walk up to my tree stand, and a learner's permit. And of course, since I had my learner's permit, what's a better drive than to make the kid with the learner's permit get 7 hours of driving experience by driving all the way up north? So here I am, scared to death of what's actually going to happen in the woods, and the most treacherous part of the entire trip is actually straight ahead of me. It's 5 miles on a suspension bridge that is swaying like crazy. Now, the other thing about the Mackinac Bridge is only half of it is concrete. It's 4 lanes. The 2 middle ones are concrete. The 2 exterior ones are actually steel grates. You can actually stand on them and look down and see the water. Well, I guess this probably has something to do with like letting the wind come up and flow through it and the swaying and everything, the engineering. But every now and then, a big truck or a really small car will blow off of the bridge. It does happen. People are so afraid to drive across this bridge. They actually have a police assistance program. When you get to the front gate on either side, you can have a police officer get in your car with you and literally drive the car for you across the bridge. It's a free service that the Michigan State Troopers provide. Not kidding. There's actually a trooper on each side that is posted there for that reason, and they get utilized every day. But I made it across the bridge. We lived, it swayed, it was scary, it sucked, it was not fun. But soon after that, we were in deer camp. And we got into deer camp, we unloaded our stuff. It was a lot of firsts for me. The first time, being to deer camp, the first time playing poker, the first time seeing nudie magazines all over. It was a typical and stereotypical deer camp with a bunch of boys that were very happy to see the young blood in town, and that was me. So it was really cool. We got in at night and didn't really know where I'd be hunting in the morning or everything. They had already set the stands. So the dinner and the cards and all the other libations, which I didn't take part of, I was too young. But it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. It kind of, wiped the tension of the drive and all the scary stories right out of my mind. But all those scary stories and all that tension flooded right back as soon as the sun came up the next morning. And I'll tell you all about that in segment 2.
When only 5 days is your season, you need every advantage you can get. The new Takedown from Advanced Tree Stands, a 3-piece modular design with its own integrated ratchet system, gets you up in a tree faster, safer than ever before. Takedown from Advanced.
Winds of Prey, the outdoor adventure novel series by W.C. Hoffman. Orphan twin boys are raised by a woodsman they call Uncle. off the grid in the woods of northern Michigan. Trained in the art of the woodsman, they became the ultimate hunting, fishing, surviving, and killing forces that their uncle had designed them to be. When changing lives is not an option, the twins begin to take lives. Enjoy this fast-paced, thrilling, outdoors adventure novel series as the twins battle against the society that wants to end their woodland way of life. Twins of Prey, Twins of Prey 2, Homecoming, and Twins of Prey 3, Ascension are available at wchoffman.com as well as amazon.com. Be the snake, not the mouse.
Every once in a while, a design comes along that defies convention and challenges the way we think about performance. Missions are built from the ground up to embody the power and precision of an apex predator. Explore the unique features that make Mission easier to draw, maneuver, and shoot accurately.
There was a time when man could communicate with all animals. But we have since forgotten their language. Tribe Grunt Calls is a new company with an old heritage, providing affordable but high quality and great looking grunt calls to hunters like you. For more information on how you can join the tribe, visit tribegruntcalls.com.
Sunrise Archery and Outdoors, your source for all your archery needs. Bows, crossbows, and accessories from Elite, 10 Point, Mission, Matthews, Bowtech, Parker, and Prime. At Sunrise, you'll get the best customer service from a team of specialized professionals. You can even try it before you buy it and learn from the top archers. Come to the professionals for all your archery needs. Sunrise Archery and Outdoors, Torrey Road, Fenton.
Welcome to Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. Here is your host, Bill Hoffman.
Hi, this is Dave Graham with Advanced Tree Stands, and you're listening to Hoffman's Hunting Heritage.
Welcome back to segment 2 of this week's show here on the Hoffman Hunting Heritage Outdoors podcast. In segment 1, I left you off with just about the scariest thing that's ever happened to me, and that was surviving a bear attack. And where we left off was me climbing into that tree stand. It was a ladder stand in a pine tree overlooking some, it was sugar beets and carrots. I specifically remember the carrots. And I was just, waiting for the sun to come up. It was a typical morning hunt. It was a little different. My first hunt in the United Peninsula, the Upper Peninsula. Geez, oh, Pete's Billy. In the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. But, the Upper Peninsula doesn't look all that different from where I hunt down here. So I kind of had a vague idea from what my dad and uncle had told me about where the deer would come from. And, they said, well, if you see any bears, they'll probably come up out of the swamp. And, so I knew where to look. And it's just a peaceful morning. I sat there and, I could hear things moving around me and couldn't really tell what they were. And then just as the sun was coming up, I heard it. I heard the crunching and some snarls. And I thought to myself, well, a deer doesn't make that sound. And then I looked to my left, and I was looking off into, the sun was just coming up. I could see probably maybe 15 yards, and all I see at eye level is a bear. At eye level, I'm 15 feet up in a tree stand, and I'm looking directly at the claws of a bear up in the stand. The bear was in a birch tree about 8 to 9 yards away from me, and all I could see was 4 claws. His body was on the opposite side of me, and he had climbed the tree next to me. or was climbing down. I mean, I know they don't roost in trees, but I can't figure out. He must have. The only thing I can figure is at this point is when I walked in, I spooked the bear. The bear climbed that. The bear treed himself kind of like he was being chased like by dogs, and he happened to tree himself 8 to 10 yards away from where I climbed into my tree stand. So there I am, up in the air in a tree stand, face to face with a bear. But I haven't seen his face yet, so I'm not really super sure if he knows I'm there. So I start thinking, do I throw the apple at this bear? Do I just shut up and be quiet? Now, he wasn't a big bear, but when you're not used to seeing bears, and especially when it's still twilight, a bear's a bear, right? It doesn't matter what the size is. So it's kind of just like hanging there, and it's really dark back behind it. So I kind of think to myself, oh, crap, he's looking at me. I can't tell that he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and he's not moving because he can't figure out what the hell I am. So I just decide to sit tight. I'm not going to make any noise. And that ended up being the right decision because I heard some more moving around as the sun came up a little more, and directly next to him, in another birch tree, this tree probably 14 yards away, is another bear. I can only see the black spot and the claws, but this one is like tilted to the side a little more, and I get a better view of the size of this bear, and I instantly realize it's tiny. I compare it to the other one that's closer to me. It's smaller. Oh my God, they're cubs. There's 2 bear cubs 15 yards away from me, treed, sitting here looking at me. Where is mommy? Where is the sow? I begin panicking. I begin to freak out. I stand up in the tree stand and grab my bow, and I'm ready to defend my life against this sow, who's obviously not going to be happy that I had scared her cubs and treed them. And oh my God, what's going to happen? And I'm in a ladder stand. I've seen bears walk around on balls at the circus. I'm sure that a bear can climb a tree stand. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, do I sit here and stay tight? My dad told me if I saw cubs, just to not make any noise and not move. But I've already scared these cubs enough that they treat themselves. So would it make sense for me to get down and run away? Would it make to get out into the field where there's more light? I'm 35 yards from the field edge, and I can see out in the field it's light, but back here in the pines, all I can really see is the whiteness of the birch trees because it's still pretty dark, and all these thoughts are running through my mind. And honestly, I'm freaking out. This is before we didn't have two-way radios, and this is obviously before cell phones. So I just know that I'm in a bad spot, that I have to make a decision that's probably going to affect the rest of my life. And I decide to climb down. I decide that the best thing I can do is to get out of the area. And at least if I can get out to the field edge, my dad's on the other side of the woodlot, on the other side of the field. He'll be able to see what's happening. He'll wonder why I'm running out, and he can help me. So that was the plan. So basically, I thought, well, I had a hoist rope on my bow. Do I lower my bow down? But then I thought, well, I'll be without my bow, but I can't. The bow's not really going to help me climbing. So I decided to actually put my arm through my bow. I was shooting a compound at the time, and kind of just have it next to me, like draped over my shoulder, kind of almost like a satchel. And I start to climb down, and when I climb down, my stand, how metal stands kind of like they clink or they chime together. Well, that happens, and the woods explodes. So all of a sudden, both of those cubs are like shimmying down the tree. I've scared the cubs again. I hear snarls. I'm freaking out, and I'm stuttering here because I'm trying to portray like how scared I was in that moment. I climb back up, I unsatchel or get my arm out of my bow, I knock an arrow, I put my release on the string, and I just get ready. And as soon as those cubs hit the ground, I'm looking for the sow. And I thought maybe the cubs would run away, but they didn't. They hit the ground, and they kind of just lumbered around. And down on the ground, it was still pretty dark. I couldn't really tell, size-wise in what they were, because, guys, it's just twilight. But I can hear them moving around it, and I can tell exactly where they're at. And I can also hear that I don't hear anything big enough or loud enough to be the sow. So I thought, well, it's just the cubs right now. Well, the cubs, they kind of settled down, and they mill around for a minute, and I can't see them, but I can hear them. And then I watch them come across, or listen to them as the sun's come across, and I can kind of start to see their silhouette on the ground more. And they actually came into my bait pile, into the carrot pile, and I could see them lifting up the orange carrots. And it took, at this point, 3 or 4 minutes for me to realize that those cubs were porcupines. The whole time. It was 2 porcupines the entire time. Not a bear in sight to attack me or gnaw my leg off. Nothing like that. I was 15 years old, and I was crapping my pants over porcupines. Like I said, though, in my defense, they were really big porcupines. Not only that, but the way the snarls I was hearing, and that I couldn't totally see them, and it makes totally sense of why they were in trees, because, hello, dummy, porcupines live in trees or sleep in trees. I just, when you're 15 years old, you see, and your mind plays so many tricks on you because you don't have the experience in the woods. Now, come to think of it, I blame myself for being 15 years old and falling for this whole thing. However, I still don't hunt the UP a lot. I've only hunted it twice in my entire life. And I still think that if that exact situation happened, that I would think they were bear cubs. Because it's what I could see, what I could hear, and just all the evidence I had built around it led me to believe that they were bear cubs. And there was nothing in my head then that would be different now that would scream, "You idiot, it's a porcupine." The only thing I have going for me now is the experience that this happened to me before, and the fact of knowing that porcupines kind of roost up in trees. However, not knowing that, there was no reason that it wasn't 100% plausible that I was going to die. So anyway, I know this was a little bit misleading, but it's a great story, being the fact that I honestly, in my heart, thought that my life was ending at 15 years old. Thanks a lot for checking out this episode of Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. I really appreciate every single one of you. Don't forget that if you're listening on the website or on Facebook, you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes if you have an iPhone, or if you're using an Android device, you can download the app Stitcher, Stitcher, and the podcast episodes get delivered directly to your phone each week. Guys, it's 2017. It's almost 2017. I am super excited for what we have in the year ahead of me. I've got a lot of great guests lined up who have a wealth of knowledge to share with you, and I've got some really cool stories to share with you as well. And you know what? From the Hoffman family, from the Hoffman Hunting Heritage, heck, from me, your host, Bill Hoffman, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2017.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. Get outdoors. It's a wild place to be.